My name's Christine. I'm 38. I live in Denver and work as a senior architect. I've spent most of my life being the one everyone could count on. You know the type. The one who shows up early, stays late, pays the bills when no one else can. The one who fixes things. That's been me since I was a kid, 3 weeks before my younger brother Oliver's wedding. A wedding I'd quietly funded most of. I got a text message that knocked the wind out of me. It was in the family group chat. From my mother. Christine, we need to talk. There's been a change of plans. You're no longer welcome. Oliver doesn't want you at the wedding. That was it. No explanation, no phone call, just cold words on a screen. I stared at them, numb. I read it again and again, thinking maybe I'd misunderstood something. Maybe it was a mistake, but it wasn't. I had already paid for the venue, catering, and a dozen other things. I had poured over $60,000 into this wedding, and suddenly I wasn't even invited. My own brother didn't want me there. Before I take you through what happened next, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Tell me, have you ever felt used by your own family? Like no matter how much you give, it's never enough. If you've been through that, drop a comment. I want to hear from you. Anyway, let me take you back, because the truth is, this didn't come out of nowhere. Looking back now, the signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. Growing up in Kansas City, it was always clear who the favorite was. My brother Oliver could do no wrong. I don't say that out of bitterness. It's just how it was. Our dad ran a small auto shop, and Mom worked reception at a local clinic. They were stretched thin, juggling bills, keeping the lights on, doing their best. I understood that. But from a young age, I was the one picking up the slack. By the time I was 10, I was helping make dinner. At 11, I learned how to pay the water bill online because my parents forgot. I did laundry, grocery lists, helped Mom balance her checkbook when she got overwhelmed. No one asked me to, they just expected it. And when I did it, they praised me for being mature for my age. Oliver was 4 years younger and had a totally different experience. He got to be a kid. He didn't have to think about schedules or school forms or where the grocery money was coming from. He played soccer, broke things, got grounded, and still got a treat at the end of the week. He's just got that charm, Mom would say. Like that explained everything. When he forgot to take the trash out, it was no big deal. When I forgot, it was a lecture about responsibility. If he brought home a C, they said school wasn't for everyone. If I brought home an A-, they asked what happened. It was like we were living in two different families under the same roof. But I didn't resent him, not then. I just assumed that was how things were. I loved my little brother. I still do, even now. I looked out for him, covered for him, helped him with homework when he bothered to ask. I even picked him up from parties once I got my license, so my parents wouldn't find out he'd been drinking. In high school, I worked part-time at a diner to save for college. Oliver got a job at the same place a few years later, but quit after 2 weeks because the manager was annoying. I remember giving him half my tips one night because he needed gas money. He didn't even say thanks. Just grabbed the cash and walked away. I still remember the exact moment I knew I was going to make it out. I was standing in the kitchen, writing an essay on college applications on a piece of printer paper because we didn't have a working computer. Mom walked in and said, "Honey, you'll figure it out. You always do." That stuck with me, not in a good way. It meant the burden was always going to be mine. I got into a good college on a scholarship, packed up my things, and never looked back. I didn't come home much, not because I didn't love my family, but because every time I did, it felt like stepping into a role I hadn't auditioned for. In school, I worked 2 jobs and interned every summer. I was exhausted, but I made it. Graduated with honors, landed a job at a solid architecture firm in Denver, and I stayed there. I grew. I got promoted, bought a condo, invested early. I did everything the right way. Meanwhile, Oliver was drifting. A semester of community college, a landscaping gig that lasted 3 months, some Uber driving, then back at home, sleeping in until noon, and helping Dad out at the shop when he felt like it. Still, our parents never said a bad word about him. He just hasn't found his path yet, they'd say. Give him time. I did. I gave him time. I gave him money too. Helped him buy a used car once. Paid off one of his credit card bills. Loaned him $800 for moving expenses. When he was trying to move in with a girl he'd been dating for 2 months, he never paid it back. I never asked. When he met Jenna, everything changed overnight. She was sharp, well-dressed, and clearly used to a more polished lifestyle. PR firm, fancy downtown apartment, constant Instagram posts of cocktails, and rooftop yoga. When they got engaged less than a year into dating, I wasn't surprised. Oliver always wanted the fast track. Jenna seemed like someone who'd push for a picture-perfect life. That's exactly what the wedding was going to be, a show. They chose a luxury lodge outside Boulder for the venue. It was beautiful, sure, but the price tag gave me a headache. When I asked how they were affording it, Oliver brushed me off. Jenna's folks are pitching in, and mom and dad are giving what they can. But, if you can help out a little, that would really take the pressure off. He said it so casually, like it was no big deal. I said yes, because that's what I always do. A little turned into the venue deposit, then the catering, the flowers, the band. Always one more thing. I remember wiring over $3,000 one afternoon while eating lunch at my desk. I didn't even blink. That's how automatic it had become. The thing is, I wasn't trying to control anything. I wasn't trying to make the wedding about me. I was trying to help, the same way I always had. But no one asked what I wanted. No one said, "Hey, do you feel okay spending this much?" They just assumed I'd handle it, just like they always had. Looking back now, I wish I'd said no at the start, or at least asked more questions, but I didn't. And 3 weeks before the wedding, that silence came back to bite me hard. It all started with the venue. Jenna had her heart set on this rustic mountain lodge, an hour outside Boulder. Big stone fireplaces, sweeping views, and one of those spots that show up in wedding magazines with captions like chic mountain elegance. The kind of place you book because it photographs well, not because it fits your budget. They were considering it when Oliver called me late one night. "We need to lock in the date," he said, sounding anxious. "They're already almost booked for the year, and Jenna's set on that weekend." I asked how much the deposit was. $10,000, just to hold the spot. But they'll credit it toward the final total. And before I could even think it through, I said, "I can cover that if you guys are stuck." "You sure?" he asked. But it wasn't really a question. It was a formality. He knew I'd say yes. I always did. The venue deposit turned into the first domino. A week later, Jenna emailed me a list of vendors they were leaning toward, not requesting input, just letting me know what to expect. Photographer, $4,200. Florals, $5,800. Band, $3,500. Invitations, $2,000 for custom letterpress, with matching envelopes and RSVP cards. I responded with a spreadsheet, color-coded tabs, organized by category, tracking what had been paid and what was still outstanding. I even added payment deadlines. I thought it would help us stay on the same page. No one responded. Then the requests started to come in more casually. Through text, quick calls. "Hey, the florist needs a deposit by Friday. Jenna found a dress she loves, but it's off the rack and they won't hold it. We want to do signature cocktails, but the bar package is extra." Every time it came with a little pressure, just a bit of urgency, like if I didn't step up, the wedding would fall apart. Like it was my job to keep everything glued together. I didn't say no, not once. I adjusted my budget, moved money from my vacation fund, cashed in a small investment account I'd been saving for a home renovation. I told myself it was a gift, family helping family. I'd be proud of this later. But somewhere around the $45,000 mark, things changed. Jenna stopped including me in the planning group chat. I'd ask about decisions, like what kind of flowers she was going with, and get one-word answers. When I suggested simplifying the menu to help the budget, she said, "We're already locked in with the caterer." But I was the one who had signed the contract. At the food tasting, I showed up early, sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes before realizing I was at the wrong location. They'd changed the time and never told me. When I brought it up later, Oliver brushed it off. It was last minute. Jenna's mom handled it. Jenna's mom was everywhere, by the way, touring the venue again, going over color schemes, suggesting table settings. I was the one paying for the chairs she was picking out, but no one seemed to think that mattered. The day Jenna's custom dress arrived, my mom called me, excited. "You should have seen her face," she said. She was glowing. "I think she's finally starting to feel like a bride." I didn't even know they'd finalized the dress. I'd offered to come shopping. Jenna said she wanted to go with her mom and sister. "It's just easier," she told me. But when the invoice came in, $6,800, guess who it was forwarded to? It's not that I expected a parade or some grand thank you speech, but at some point, I stopped being treated like family and started feeling like a credit card. No one asked me how I was doing. No one checked if this was getting out of hand. And the more I gave, the more invisible I became. I had dinner with my friend Meredith one night. We've been close since college. I vented a little, told her what was going on. She didn't mince words. "Christine, they're using you." I laughed it off. "It's family." "That doesn't mean it's okay," she said. "You're paying for a wedding that you're barely being invited to." That hit me, because she was right. I kept looking at the spreadsheet, thinking maybe if I could just organize things better, the stress would go away. Maybe if I stayed helpful, they'd remember I was part of this. But all the organization in the world couldn't fix the fact that I was being shut out. My role had become silent, financial, and optional, until a bill came due, and somewhere in the middle of all this, the total crossed $70,000. I stared at that number one night, on my screen. It looked fake, like someone else had typed it. No one ever said thank you after the first few payments. Not Oliver, not Jenna, not even my parents. It was just assumed that Christine would take care of it, that Christine always does. And I did, until I didn't. I found out about the bridal brunch through Instagram. I was on a break at work, scrolling mindlessly, when I saw a post from one of Jenna's bridesmaids. A big group photo, mimosas, gift bags, everyone in matching robes. They were at a spa downtown. The caption said, "Celebrating our beautiful bride. Bridal brunch. Countdown to Jenna and Oliver." I stared at the screen for a full minute. No one had mentioned a brunch. Not Jenna, not Oliver, not even my mom. I told myself it was probably a misunderstanding. Maybe they figured I was too busy. Maybe it wasn't intentional. But that excuse started to fall apart when I realized every single bridesmaid was there. Even Jenna's cousin, who flew in from Chicago. And the brunch was fully catered. Champagne, custom cookies, with Jenna's face printed on them. The works. I didn't say anything that day. I just closed the app, finished my sandwich, and went back to work. The next week, I had to drop off a vendor check at Jenna and Oliver's apartment. They weren't home, but Jenna's best friend, her maid of honor, was there. I gave her the envelope and was about to leave when I heard my name. They were in the other room, door cracked open, talking just loud enough. "She's just so intense," Jenna said, "always sending those spreadsheets and asking about every little thing." "I know," her friend replied. "It's like, chill, you're not running the show." "She acts like because she's paying, she gets to have a say in everything. I didn't even want to invite her to the brunch." "You didn't?" Her friend laughed. They both laughed. I didn't wait around to hear the rest. I let the door close behind me and walked down the hallway like someone had punched me in the stomach. I sat in my car for a long time, not crying, just quiet. I'd thought maybe I was overthinking, maybe I was being too sensitive. But hearing it confirmed out loud, knowing they were talking about me like that when I was the one covering the costs, it cut deep. Later that night, I called my mom. I needed someone to talk to, someone who might actually get it. Instead, I got brushed off. "Honey," she said, "you know you can come across a little strong sometimes." I'm sure they didn't mean anything by it. I told her what I'd heard. She sighed. Christine, you're just trying to help. I know that. But not everyone works the way you do. Maybe ease up a little. Let them handle some of the details. I was stunned. I wasn't upset because I wasn't in charge. I was upset because they were treating me like an outsider, like a checkbook with no feelings. I hung up and sat on the edge of my bed, wondering why I kept putting myself in this position. I thought about all the weekends I'd spent reviewing contracts, all the times I said yes without even pausing to think about it, and I thought about how little it all seemed to matter. Then came the rehearsal dinner. It was hosted at a country club outside town, one of those places where the napkins are folded like fans, and the water glasses never get less than half full. Jenna's family had taken over the planning for it, and I wasn't asked to be involved, not even to contribute financially, which I thought was odd, but I didn't ask questions. I showed up on time, in a navy dress I'd bought for the occasion. I brought a bottle of wine for the hosts, even though I wasn't sure who that technically was. Walking into the room, it felt like stepping into someone else's event. Everyone was dressed to impress. All of Jenna's family was there, chatting, laughing, passing out name tags and programs. I looked at the printed itinerary on the table and skimmed the list. Welcome speech by Jenna's dad, toasts by her sister, maid of honor, and Oliver's friend from college. Nowhere on the schedule was my name. There wasn't even a spot listed for me to say anything. Even though I'd offered weeks before, I had written a short speech, nothing dramatic, just a few memories of growing up with Oliver and how happy I was for him. But they didn't want it. Jenna's family dominated the whole night. Her dad made a big speech about how the two families were becoming one. Her mom passed out homemade favors with the couple's initials. Her aunt toasted Jenna's grace and vision for planning such a beautiful wedding. Meanwhile, I sat at a table with 3 people I didn't know, trying to make small talk while pretending I wasn't watching my own brother drift further away from me. When dessert came around, I pulled Oliver aside. "Hey," I said, "I noticed I'm not on the program. Did something change?" He looked uncomfortable. Jenna's parents wanted to keep things tight, just a few people speaking. "But I'm your sister." "I know," he said quickly. "It's not personal, it's just, you've already done so much. That was supposed to make me feel better?" I nodded, smiled tightly, and sat back down. The room felt loud and far away, everyone clinking glasses and telling stories, laughing at jokes I wasn't part of. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't just being pushed aside, I was being erased, piece by piece, and I was letting it happen. 3 weeks before the wedding, I was in a meeting at work, presenting a project I'd been leading for the last 6 months. We were walking the client through the final plans for a city redevelopment. Nothing fancy, but something I was proud of. I was mid-sentence, explaining a design choice, when my phone started buzzing on the table beside me, first once, then again, and again. I ignored it at first. I don't check my phone in meetings, but after the 3rd or 4th vibration, I glanced down, thinking maybe it was an emergency. There it was, the group text, from my mother. "Christine, we need to talk about the wedding. There's been a change. You're no longer welcome. Oliver doesn't want you there. He says it's been too tense lately, and he doesn't want any added stress before the big day." I froze. For a second, I thought I had read it wrong. Maybe I missed a word, but I hadn't. I looked around the table, nodded at the project manager, and mumbled something about needing to step out. I grabbed my phone and walked straight to the stairwell. I didn't even take the elevator. I needed air. Standing on the concrete steps, I read the message again. "Oliver doesn't want you there." Just like that. After everything. After every check I'd written. After every conversation I was left out of. After every moment I sat smiling while they pretended I wasn't holding the whole thing together. I texted my mom immediately. "Is this a joke?" She responded a few minutes later. "I know this is hard, Christine, but please don't make this worse. Oliver feels like you've made things too complicated." Jenna's parents offered to help a little more, but only if there's no family tension. That last part made my hands shake. I called her. She answered after 2 rings. Christine, she said, her voice already tired. Can you explain this? I asked. I was trying not to lose it. I'm not invited. What happened? She hesitated. Honey, Oliver is under so much pressure right now. Jenna's family has certain expectations. He's trying to keep the peace by cutting out his sister. She sighed. It's not personal. He said you've been asking too many questions, that it's making Jenna feel overwhelmed, that you've been a little intense. Are you hearing yourself? I said. I've paid for nearly every part of this wedding, and now I'm being told I'm too intense because I want to know where my money is going. It's not about the money, she said quickly. It is, actually, I said, keeping my voice steady, because that's all you've let me be in this. The person who funds it, not a guest, not a sibling, just a wallet. She was quiet for a few seconds. Then she said, Please don't ruin this for him, Christine. He deserves a peaceful day. That's when I knew nothing I said would matter. Not to her. Not to Oliver. Not to any of them. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, okay, and hung up. I sat on those stairs for a while, just staring at the wall across from me. Something inside me shifted that day. I can't even explain it. It was like a door closed. All the guilt, all the, maybe if I do more thinking, it shut off, cold. That night, I barely slept, not because I was upset, but because I was thinking. The next morning, I called in a personal day, told work I had to deal with something urgent, and I started going through the wedding files. I pulled out every receipt, every contract, every invoice, the venue, the catering, the florals, the band, the rentals, the cake, all of it. I'd kept everything organized, folders, PDFs, spreadsheets, email chains. I knew exactly where the money had gone. And more importantly, I knew what could still be undone. I made a list, 2 columns. One side was final payments not made yet. The other was contracts with cancellation clauses. And that afternoon, I started making calls. No drama, no warnings, just quiet, clear action. Because if I wasn't welcome at the wedding, then neither was my money. Let them figure it out. Let them call Jenna's parents and ask for more help. Let them feel what it's like to scramble. I'd done enough. I wasn't going to yell or argue or try to convince anyone of anything. I was just going to stop giving. And for the first time in a long time, I felt completely calm. I started with the venue. I called the coordinator I'd been working with for months. Her name was Shannon. She was always polite, always responsive. I told her I needed to talk about our options. She paused, then said, Christine, is everything okay? Not really, I said. I've been asked not to attend the wedding I've been paying for. I can't continue supporting it. She didn't ask questions, just quietly walked me through the contract. I'd paid a $10,000 deposit, but since final payment hadn't been made, and the event was still 3 weeks out, I was entitled to a partial refund. 25% back. Not much, but it was something. And more than I was willing to let go without a fight. Do you want us to cancel everything or transfer it to another party? She asked. Cancel. If they want to rebook it, they can do it themselves, under their own name. She paused again. I'm really sorry this is happening. For what it's worth, you've been one of the most organized clients I've ever worked with. I thanked her and moved on. Next came the florist, then the caterer, the band, the photographer, the cake designer. I had signed all the contracts, paid the deposits, and kept all the receipts. Some vendors couldn't give refunds. Those were sunk costs. But others offered partial returns or were willing to cancel the balance before it was due. One of the rental companies even offered to waive their cancellation fee. Honestly, the rep said, we've seen situations like this more than you'd think. You're not the first person to get pushed aside after footing the bill. By 3 p.m., I had either canceled or detached myself from every vendor I was connected to. I sent clear, respectful emails, letting each of them know I was no longer financially or personally involved in the event. If anyone else wanted to take over payments, they were welcome to. Not once did I raise my voice or vent in those messages. I kept it professional. The words were calm. The intention wasn't. When I was done, I sat back and looked at the spreadsheet one last time. Every box I'd filled, every detail I'd handled, all of it was gone now. I deleted the folder from my drive. And then my phone started lighting up. First, it was Oliver. "Christine, what did you do? The venue just called. They said it's canceled. We need to talk." Then Jenna. "This is insane. You're being really petty. We were just trying to avoid stress. You're acting like a child." I didn't respond. I wasn't in the mood to explain anything. They had made their decision. They didn't want me there. They didn't want my questions. They wanted me gone. Now they had what they asked for. By that evening, my mother called 3 times, left voicemails filled with disappointment and guilt. "You didn't need to take it this far," she said. "You've humiliated Oliver." I didn't answer. I didn't return the calls. Instead, I typed out one message in the family group chat. "You wanted a wedding without me. Now you can pay for it without me." Then I blocked them. All of them. It wasn't out of spite. It was out of peace. I poured myself a glass of wine, turned off my phone, and sat on the balcony. It was quiet, just the sound of wind and traffic in the distance. No texts, no calls, no guilt tripping. For the first time in months, I felt still. No part of me wanted to be dragged into more arguments. No part of me cared what excuse they were making now. All I knew was that I had taken back control, and it felt right. The money I didn't recover, fine. Consider it the cost of learning where I stood. I didn't need an apology anymore. I needed space. And I finally gave it to myself. I packed light. Just a duffel bag, my laptop, a couple of books, and a worn-out journal I hadn't touched in years. I found a small casita on the edge of Taos, New Mexico. Quiet, dusty roads, big skies, and no cell service unless I drove 20 minutes into town. It was exactly what I needed. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Meredith knew I was taking time off, but even she didn't know the exact location. I wasn't running away. I was stepping back. I needed a break from the noise, from the questions, from all the "what did you do" messages I kept deleting without reading. The first 2 days, I barely left the little porch. I drank coffee, stared at the mountains, and did nothing. It was strange at first. I've always been busy, always planning, solving, fixing something. Sitting still made me nervous, but after a while, the stillness started to feel like breathing. On the 3rd day, I opened my laptop and logged into a Zoom session with a therapist I'd found online. Her name was Dr. Low, soft voice, no nonsense. She didn't ask for the whole story in one go. She just asked why I reached out. I told her I didn't want to feel bitter anymore. I'd spent so much time being angry. At Oliver, at Jenna, at my parents. But underneath it was something worse. Exhaustion. I was tired of giving and never being seen. Tired of pretending things were okay when they weren't. Tired of being the one who held everything up without ever being invited to the table. She nodded and said, "That's not bitterness. That's burnout. You've been running on empty." That hit hard, because she was right. I wasn't mad because they hurt me once. I was mad because I'd let it happen again and again. Every day in Taos, I wrote. I didn't hold back. I wrote down the comments, the guilt trips, the moments I felt invisible. I filled page after page with things I had never said out loud. I cried through some of it, laughed through other parts. It wasn't pretty, but it was honest. The mornings were cool and quiet. I hiked in the afternoons, slow walks through desert trails, nothing too ambitious. I let the sun hit my skin. I watched birds. I listened to the sound of my own footsteps on dirt paths. On the day Oliver and Jenna were supposed to get married, I woke up early. I made tea and sat by the window with my journal. I didn't feel sadness, not the kind I expected. I felt relief. It surprised me. I wrote a letter I never planned to send, not to Oliver, but to myself. I told the version of me who always said yes that it was okay to stop, that love doesn't mean setting yourself on fire to keep others warm, that boundaries aren't rejection, they're protection. Around noon, Meredith showed up. She knocked once and let herself in, like she always does. She had snacks, wine, and a look on her face that said, "You're not getting away without talking." We sat outside, passing the bottle between us, letting the wind tangle our hair. "You know," she said, "most people would have just swallowed it, kept quiet, shown up to that wedding with a smile, and let it eat them alive. But you didn't." "I didn't feel brave," I said. "Well, it was," she replied. "You did the bravest thing, standing up for yourself when no one else would." I didn't say anything for a minute, just looked out at the horizon. "It wasn't just about the wedding," I finally said. "It was everything before that. All the times I put myself last because I didn't know how to do anything else." She nodded. "I've watched you do it for years." That stung a little, hearing it out loud. But it also made me realize that people had noticed. Maybe they hadn't said anything, but they'd seen it. I looked at Meredith and said, "I'm done being that person." "Good," she said. "About time." We clinked glasses and sat in silence for a while, the kind of silence that feels like something new is starting. That night, I slept better than I had in months, not because everything was fixed, not because I had a plan, but because I finally understood that I didn't need anyone's permission to stop being the fixer. The role I'd been playing my whole life, I was done with it. For the first time, I was writing a new part, one where I didn't disappear to keep the peace, and it felt good, really good. It had been almost 4 months since the wedding, that wasn't. By then, I had gone back to work, picked up a few new clients, and quietly built a new routine. Therapy became a weekly part of my life. So did Saturday hikes, and actually sitting down to eat dinner without a laptop nearby. I didn't talk to my family. I didn't check their social media. I didn't ask mutual friends for updates. Then one afternoon in January, I opened my mailbox and saw it. A pale blue envelope with handwriting I hadn't seen in a long time. Oliver's. No return address, but I knew right away it was from him. I sat on my couch, envelope in hand, unsure if I even wanted to open it. Part of me thought it was too late for anything he had to say. Another part, maybe the older sister part, still hoped for something real. I opened it. Inside was a simple card. No flowers, no printed message, just a few handwritten lines. "Christine, I know I don't deserve your time, but I need to say I'm sorry. You were right about all of it. Jenna and I have separated. That's not your problem. I'm not asking for anything. I just want to talk. No excuses, just honesty. I understand if the answer is no." Oliver. I stared at it for a while. It wasn't long. It didn't try to explain things away. He didn't blame stress, or Jenna, or Mom, and that alone made me pause. I didn't respond right away. I brought the card to therapy, read it out loud, and asked, "Am I crazy for wanting to say yes?" Dr. Lowe just said, "Not if you go in clear about your boundaries." So I did. I sent him a text a week later, just one line. "Tuesday at 4, the coffee shop on Brighton. 1 hour. When I walked in, he was already sitting there, same beat-up gray hoodie, same nervous tapping on the table. He stood up when he saw me and gave a small, awkward wave. We didn't hug. He sat down. I ordered tea, and then I let him talk. He started with what I think were the only words that mattered. I was wrong. He didn't list excuses. He didn't try to say he was caught in the middle. He said he had chosen the easier path, that it was easier to keep Jenna and her family happy than to stand up for me, that he thought throwing money at the problem would fix it. And when I started asking questions, it made him feel exposed. He said he was embarrassed, that he had let his fiancée talk him into believing I was being controlling when all I was doing was being responsible, like I always had. Then he told me the marriage barely made it 3 months, that they had different values, that Jenna didn't want to work, and he wasn't ready to support the image she wanted to keep up. He said the wedding wasn't the beginning of their problems, it was the biggest symptom. And then he looked at me and said, "I'm sorry I let them erase you. I don't know if we can fix this, but I'd like to try." I sat with that for a while before answering. "I'm not looking to go back to how things were," I said. "I'm done being the fixer. If we move forward, it's with boundaries. And I'm not going to pretend none of this happened. He nodded. That's fair. We talked for another 30 minutes, nothing deep, just enough to feel like we were starting from level ground for once. When we left, I didn't promise anything, but I felt lighter. Since then, we've exchanged a few texts, nothing constant, but enough. My parents have reached out too, less pushy, more careful. I'm not rushing anything. I've spent too many years putting other people's comfort first. That's over. Now I ask myself what I need, what I want. And here's the truth I finally understand. Love doesn't mean losing yourself. It doesn't mean setting yourself aside to make everyone else comfortable. Family isn't just blood. It's who shows up. It's who sees you clearly, not just who benefits from your silence. If you've been listening to my story this far, thank you. And now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with people who were supposed to love you unconditionally? What did you learn? How did it change you? Drop a comment. Let's talk. And if this story hit home for you, do me a favor. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories about growth, boundaries, and what it really means to choose yourself.